ladies and gentlemen, please welcome radio Hugh Hewitt.
I'd really like to begin by thanking my good friend Tim Phillips for putting me on after Newt Gingrich, Jim DeMint, Herman Cain, and Dallas Woodhouse. I mean, that's really nice of Tim, and I'm putting a note on that on Monday's show to pay him back in front of 2 million people. I am so pleased to be here because I am representing that group of people who, for whatever reason, seems to attract the ire, the attention, and the bricks of the New York Times on a daily basis. I'm representing the nationally syndicated talk show host, and I'm here to tell you I am so proud to be a colleague of America's best communicator of freedom, Rush Limbaugh. Remember this. When they attack Rush, when they attack Sean, when they attack Glenn Beck, when they attack me, when they attack my friend, the Great One, with whom I've worked for 20 years since the Reagan Justice Department, when they attack my colleagues at Salem, Bill Bennett or Dennis Prager or Michael Medved, my friend Laura Ingraham, they are attacking you, they are attacking your families, and they are attacking freedom, specifically the First Amendment. Don't let them do that. Now, Newt said he could have gone long. Ha! I'm the Ernie Banks of talk radio. I do 3 hours and say, let's play 2. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to give you 6 specific things that I'm going to ask you to consider doing after I tell you one story that's directed particularly to those of you who are 25 and younger, and there are a lot of you here. Thank you for coming. In 1976, I sat in a dorm room, and I got to apologize to the Baptists here. There was a lot of scotch involved, and I sat there with a pretty good tutor of mine. I'd taken his sophomore and his junior tutorial. His name was Alan Keyes. And Alan Keyes and I sat in a room, and we drank a lot of Dewar's, because Jimmy Carter was winning. We had had so much Dewar's, we were hoping that Matt Hatton would come in and miraculously carry Jerry Ford over the top, and it didn't happen. And it was a pretty bad night. 2 years later, flash forward, I'm in the Elba of America. I'm in San Clemente as a ghostwriter for Richard Nixon, and things are very bad in this country. And every day I would spend a couple of hours with the disgraced and former president who was busy rehabilitating himself by writing a book called The Real War, and it was bleak. The Cubans were all over Africa, if you remember those years. Iran had fallen to the fanatics that were, to this day, bedeviling the world. Afghanistan was on the brink of invasion by the Soviets, and the hostage crisis was ahead, and we had double-digit inflation and double-digit unemployment and a prime interest rate of 18%. That was my college graduation environment, so welcome to the real world. Now, at that time, I got a phone call from my oldest friend in California. I'd never been west of Indiana. I'd moved out to San Clemente on that job offer to work for Rand. He said, come with me. I want to go to a hotel down in San Diego. I want you to hear something. I don't really want to drive to San Diego, but I did. And we went into a little hotel, much smaller than this. The room was barely 200 people, and it was hot. The air conditioning had broken. And into that room with 200 people came Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan was working the hustings. No one thought he had a prayer. He had lost in 1976. He was old. He was 69 years old. And it was hot, and he took his jacket off. He invited everyone to take his jacket off, and then he gave the speech. And I was just transfixed by this. I'd never heard him give the speech before. I'm so proud to have spent 6 years in the Reagan administration, but what I really want to tell you today is 1979, when I heard that speech, 10 years later, the man who was finished had destroyed the empire that would destroy us. The Soviet Union was gone. Things change in a hurry. Things change in a hurry. We got to minimize the damage that the Democrats are going to do from health care, and Jim DeMint and his colleagues are doing that. But that requires that we remain active and adamant, and especially with our senior friends. There is forming up right now an army of walkers and artificial hips, and I do not want to be in the opposite side of that. You know and I know that they know $500 billion in Medicare cuts is aimed right at them. They are going to bear the burden of this fiasco, and they do not want it, and we need to encourage them to be in the game, and we need to support them in that game, and we need to support the men and women in the United States Congress who are fighting every single day to stop that. You heard this mentioned earlier, and it's so important, I'm going to go back to it. We need to educate people on our broken legal system. You know, in addition to talking on the radio, I'm a lawyer. I'm a practicing lawyer. And my partners and I defend some of the biggest corporations in America, people who make cars and trucks and vans, people who invite you to their amusement parks, people who invite you to their resorts, and every single day I sit down with them in the morning before the show, and I hear about another nonsense lawsuit filed against people who produce and people who make and people who entertain and people who feed, brought by plaintiffs' lawyers who are after a quick payday and a strike suit and a dumb jury. This is killing our economy, killing it dead. It's not just the medical system, though of course we see that each one of us in this room pays the cost of an out-of-control medical malpractice system. But if you drive a car, if you ride a motorcycle, if you go to any place that entertains you, you're paying the cost of a crazy legal system that the plaintiffs' lawyers are bankrolling the Democratic Party to keep in place because they are getting rich, rich, and richer on the backs of the American working man and woman. That's why we have 10% unemployment, because we bear the cost of a legal system that simply crushes productivity, innovation, and efficiency. We've got to change that. We've got to relentlessly expose, and we have got to mock the left wing in the way that we have learned from the left wing about us. When we are offered the opportunity to hold up to the world Acorn, as Andrew Breitbart and his young filmmakers did, then we've got to tell everyone about biggovernment.com. We've got to send everyone to the right YouTube channel. Yes, you can send them to HughHewitt.com, but I have my own broadcast means. I can tell them that every day. When someone like Andrew is out doing what he's doing, send them to biggovernment.com. Tell them about Americans for Prosperity. Do not be silent with your friends who are apolitical, who are beginning to move, because people are beginning to move in a huge way. When Michelle Malkin writes an amazing book like Culture of Corruption, buy 5 copies and give them to liberals. It will annoy the hell out of them. Finally, and this is the most important thing I'm going to say today, the most important thing. A moment is coming very soon when our most reliable ally, the only democratic state in the Middle East, is going to have to take action against a fascist regime that threatens the world. And when Israel strikes Iran, we must stand with Israel. There is going to be when that happens, when they do the job that we ought to do, and that unfortunately and sadly and tragically I do not believe we will do, when that happens, there will be a chorus of hate unleashed in this country by the legacy media against our most reliable ally that will require all of us turn out on street corners, all of us mobilize, all of us call, all of us march on behalf of a state that has done the world a great, great favor. One that, had it happened in the 30s, would not have led to the war that claimed 60 million lives. Israel is our ally. Let's not be ashamed of that. Let's stand up for them from now until that moment and thereafter. Thank you for being here. Spread the word about Americans for Prosperity. Thank you.